Somebody may have tips for you. Something else that is new and good.
May I have a second new and good?
Yes, and then I'm gonna put Win on the spot and ask her to share something new and good. Oh, where was that?
The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee. This book is so fantastic. I lead my church's racial justice book discussion group. We read it last night, or we discussed it last night. We have so much to talk about that we're going to discuss it the next time as well. And what she really does, what Heather McGhee does, is using data as well as stories that she's collected by going across the country and talking to people to show us things that we might remember, that we lived through in a whole new light. And it's causing me to reevaluate what I knew about the 2009 financial crisis. I was working at the US Treasury Department at the time. And what she's explained about it and what she's explained about many other things is so important. The picture on the front, she talks about how because of racial prejudice and injustice, we don't have the good things that we would have as a country if we could come together. And she talks about a solidarity dividend. Fantastic book. Everybody should read it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that recommendation, and thank you for meeting with your community to discuss those things.
Yeah.
Win, what is new and what's good?
So I recently started working at the farmers market as a sales rep for Number One Sons, which is they do like kimchi and sauerkraut and other fermented foods. So I've been really enjoying that. Tomorrow I'm working at the farmers market at 14th and U. So if anyone wants to stop by, I can give you a friends and family discount. So yeah, that's been new and something I've really been enjoying.
I like to share that something new. It's not new really, but it's new this year, and that's me returning back to work to the Old Columbia Pike office. I've been home for a year, pretty much. So it's great to be back and see everyone that I've been able to see so far.
Definitely been nice to have you back.
Thank you.
Well, this is Lorna Ford. I am sorry that I joined just a tad bit late, and I apologize for not turning on my video, but I am unable. Just trust me on that one. My something new is that tomorrow I'm going to be flying to Miami to see one of my daughters, and I haven't been able to do that in over a year. So I am beyond excited. I'm fully vaccinated. She's fully vaccinated. I'm just thrilled beyond anything I can describe. So that's my feel good new contribution to the discussion today. And I'm sorry, Robin, if you could please put in the chat the name of that book and the author, that'd be great. Thanks.
I'll just echo Lorna. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks to drive to Madison, Wisconsin to see my younger daughter. Similarly, I have not seen her or her now husband in 18 or 19 months. So everybody's fully vaxxed. I have a relatively new car and I'm taking a road trip.
Good for you.
That's awesome. Hey, on the plane, just real quick, are they asking for, along with obviously the ID, are they asking for vaccination cards or proof of vaccination yet?
That's a good question. I don't think so. But you know what? I'm not 100% sure. I need to go and look at that since I'm supposed to be flying somewhere tomorrow. So I don't know.
Yeah,
But whatever it is they need, I have. I know you don't have to take a test if you're fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I kind of read that, so that's why, not that it was in place, but I read that they were going to that. So I didn't know if you had seen that, so.
I got so many things going on. I would have been too upset if I got to the airport and needed something and didn't have it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey there, I'm Robin. Thank you for getting the chat information. And I'm glad we're sharing some information about traveling. I am been multitasking a little bit. So the situation is we can't seem to change the time on Eventbrite. We are now live streaming on YouTube, which is exciting, but if nobody knows to go to YouTube, it's not very helpful. We're also trying, like we did with Lorna, to get Zoom information to people as they recognize the problem. One of the big purposes of this meeting was to try to get people outside of MANA involved. So I'm a little bit worried that if we go ahead with today's discussion, we may not be reaching the folks we want to reach with these important ideas. So we can do a couple of things, or folks might have other ideas. We can do this together as we planned and have a great conversation with those who the technological universe brought together, and then consider doing a renewed version next month. We can regroup and just give everybody their hour and a half back and say, we'll see you next month, third Wednesday of the month, if that works for David and Catherine, who are our guest speakers. We can do something that somebody else has thought of that I haven't. So any other suggestions or preferences at this point?
Well, I agree that, we don't want to preach to the choir. That's not the intent of this fellowship. And so if it would serve us better to delay this session until we have the right audience, then perhaps that's the thing to do.
Yeah. And I'm fairly a lot more flexible next month. So if that is the intent, I'm certainly available to reconvene.
Yeah, that is a day that I plan to be in Wisconsin, which they do have internet there. But my daughter's house, I'm not sure. I guess it's her phone service. Let's just say I'll make it work. I'll go rent a hotel room for the day.
I don't think of that. That's necessary. And maybe just thinking of the opportunities or the options, open things up, because I am seeing some Breaking Bread participants from the past, like Kathy. Great to see you. And I bet Kathy found it on Twitter, because Kathy doesn't sleep. She just likes things on Twitter. I've noticed this about her, because she's an incredible professional. She gets a lot of things done, and anything I've ever said on Twitter, Kathy has liked, which I really appreciate.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I just posted on Twitter, and Laura Lee, we're glad you're with us. And so I think instead of making Catherine reschedule where she's going to be in Madison, Wisconsin, we should go with the group that we have. And as other people join us, that's great. And let's jump in. So we've had some new and good. We've had some bad and sad technology. We also typically do a little bit of check-in. If anybody made a commitment in a previous Breaking Bread that you want to share, that you took some action on, we'd love to hear that. No pressure, but only if you want to kind of share. Not hearing none, then we'll just go ahead and jump in. So hi, I'm Jackie DiCarlo. And I am so pleased that I know so many folks on this call, and welcome Andrea from Community Reach. We at Breaking Bread have have been sipping the lemonade of COVID. You know how Beyonce says, when the world gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Well, we've had a picture of lemonade in many ways because Breaking Bread has been really successful. Today notwithstanding, because Zoom has made it possible for more people to participate than ever before. And that's wonderful. But at the same time, we wanted to utilize Breaking Bread during COVID to talk about some critical issues that were coming out of the moment. So we brought in folks talking about health disparities. We brought in folks talking about the importance of participating in the 2020 election. We kind of got some subject matter experts, if you will. But actually, the premise of Breaking Bread is that we are all experts in our own experience of wanting food for all. We all know the power of food to bring people together. We all know that if, and in fact, let me see if I can share my screen. I'll share that real quick. Our guiding hypothesis really is that if we use our collective experience here within Montgomery County of giving and receiving food, will spark a new network of relationships across lines of difference, and will spark new solutions to hunger in Montgomery County. So we wanted to get back to that. We wanted to get back to being across lines of difference, some of us being volunteers, some of us receiving food, some of us being donors, and create some conversations in a potluck fashion. And we anticipate that soon we'll be able to do it again in person. And we also wanted to recognize that Breaking Bread will never be the same because society will never be the same. And I'm just really thrilled that Dina's been able to be with us today. Dina, can I put you on the spot? Do you remember your famous quote?
Unmute.
Yeah, take yourself off of mute.
Zoom has kicked me out like 4
Got
So-
bad issues.
Yeah.
freezes and then it kicks me out. So yes. You give me credit for this quote, but I don't think it was original with me. It's simply that at the very beginning, when we pivoted from community food rescue to stay put packs and then food for families, I was just being blinded by the truth of how inequitable food access was in our community, among other things, food access among many other things. And it was very painful to have to see this. But when people would talk about when will things be normal again, I just kept thinking, we don't want normal again. Normal is highly dysfunctional for our neighbors. And I don't even use the term new normal anymore. I talk about next normal because I'm not really expecting it's going to last more than a few minutes. And I also actually was just this morning listening to a very interesting conversation with someone who had a life-limiting illness. And people are always asking her, how close to normal is she? Are you like 85% normal? And she said, first of all, you can't quantify such a thing. But secondly, she'll never be what was her previous normal. Cannot be, because she has changed as a result of this health crisis. And I think we can't ever go back to normal, even if we want to, because we are changed as a community, as a society, because of this crisis. So it's all sort of going to be a bit, when you hear the same message from multiple sources, it starts to seem very true. That makes sense? Anything I just rambled?
Perfect.
Yes.
I
very
am going to
much so.
say, and I, Jackie, I have said this to you, and I certainly have said it to Cheryl. Volunteering with MANA for the last 15 months or so has been my mental health savior. Full stop. you know,
Mhm.
just being able to do some small thing that is in some small way useful to another person kept me from really going over the deep end time and time again. And, you know, I thank Win, and I thank you, and I thank Cheryl for just making it possible for regular folks like me to get out there and do something that matters to somebody else, even if it's just for that moment.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, and thank you for being part of us all trying to do our best in the ways that we could. And just again, Breaking Bread is about giving and receiving. Manna is about giving and receiving, and you gave your time, and I'm glad you received some benefit from that for sure. And we're still going to quote you, because I think that you are, you know, you talked about volunteering opened your eyes, and lots of our eyes have been open, and lots of us want the next normal, but now we're figuring out, well, how are we going to do that? And so today's conversation, Dave and Catherine are going to kind of role model and share some things they've been reflecting on. But before they do that, we did want to help kind of give a framework for this consideration. So we have the social change wheel that Eventbrite was supposed to share with you guys. I don't know if it did. I'm not trusting Eventbrite today, but here it is. And I really encountered this at Montgomery College. So I want to give a shout out to the Office of Community and Engagement and Student Services over at the college. But this is just one picture of a toolkit, really, about working to social change. What has got to encompass social change, and it can be a lot of different activities. So just at the top of the wheel in some of the olive and green, you see deliberative and reflective dialogue. Well, actually, that's what we hope Breaking Bread is deliberative and reflective. And in and of itself, it can't change the world. It can't end hunger. It can't create the next normal. But when it's paired with or alongside of some of the other ways, like voting and formal political activities. So these are just categories, and we're going to get into some of these categories and some of these examples, but we offer them up as a framework for each of us to figure out, what do we want to do as individuals to create the next or new normal. But then also, hopefully, in conversations today over lunch, we will think about how this group of people who is interested in doing that can support one another and can have some continuity as we emerge together. I do want to just give a shout out, because she was persistent and she made it in. Jane from Impact, thanks for being with us, Jane. And Impact was
Everyone.
Critical to the creation of Breaking Bread, helping us with some of our reflection internally at Manna, and then that brought that out into the world. And Impact and Interfaith also for a while helped us here in East County, trying to break bread with our neighbors before we moved to the Silver Spring location. So it's great to see Jane here. But what we're going to do now is Agar, give me a thumbs up. Agar, my co-host and our community engagement manager, and such a great addition to the Manna team, another glass of lemonade from the pitcher of COVID. Agar, are you good for breakout rooms? Can you put us in breakout rooms in just a sec?
Give me 1 second, Jackie, please.
Sure. So the idea is we're going to hear first from Dave and Catherine anyway. So they'll go first. I just wanted to make sure we still had the capacity to do breakout rooms. So let's go ahead and start with Dave. Dave, tell us who you are and tell us what the next normal is going to look like for you, perhaps in the context of the social change wheel.
Yep. Well, again, greetings, everyone. My name is David Luckett, as Jackie mentioned. I'm new to Manna, new to the board, and it's been it's a pleasure. I think although I have not been involved as long as Dina, I do share the fact that doing these types of things, getting involved and trying to make a difference, is a part of our therapy. Being able to do something to help someone else, and that's why when we were asked, Catherine and I were asked, and when I began to look at this opportunity to talk about and maybe ignite this discussion on social change, as well as the wheel that she shared the image on. Now, basically, the wheel that you saw on the screen is actually, there's more to that wheel. And that's why I know we're sad that everyone didn't get an actual copy of the document, because once you see that outer ring that Jackie has shown talked about all those things such as deliberative and reflective dialogue and all the other things that you probably saw. And I'm sure you'll get a copy of it. But the inner part of the wheel, and if you can picture this wheel spinning and you were able to spin different parts of the wheel, what it did for me was it allowed me to look at some of these categories and begin to position other things on the wheel, almost in almost like a flow of what could be. In other words, I could combine different things. And again, I'm sorry you can't see that, but things like civic-minded career readiness, community engaged teaching and learning, and combining that along with deliberative and reflective dialogue in some way to kind of bring about a future plan of action. We're not going to put an action plan together right now, but the whole purpose is to kind of look at how this wheel, how we as individuals can utilize this wheel to kind of figure out what could we do to get involved? What kind of strategy could we begin to envision? And then later on, putting things together to make that happen. So, we're anxious to get into that breakout, to talk about it. I've got some ideas, but the whole thing is all of us getting ideas to try to look at social change in a different way. So that's how I wanted to introduce it, Jackie. You may be on mute, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave. So, Catherine, you're next, and then we'll go into those breakout rooms.
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Kopp, and I'm a longtime, primarily financial supporter of MANA. And I was most recently involved, and importantly asked to be involved, because I think being asked is very important, to being involved in Food for All. So Dave talked to you about the social change wheel, and it's unfortunate you don't have access to it, but I thought about a particular vision. Actually, I have two ideas for post-COVID, and how this wheel could, and the activities that this wheel presents could be useful for the following two visions. One of my visions is short-term and collective, and the second one, which I'll address more briefly, is long-term and individually focused. But to me, they're both essential to addressing food insecurity in the post-COVID world. One of MANA's underlying goals, as I understand it and as I experience MANA, is to treat clients with dignity. And it's my understanding, and at least the way I see the new retail store model, which grew out of Food for All, is to increase dignity of the clients by giving them the opportunity to choose and be empowered to choose the food that they would take from MANA. Consistent with that idea of dignity, I had the following thought, and this was prompted by a visit I made to the new facility. I was invited by Jackie because I supported one small part of the market concept in memory of my late husband, who was both connected with MANA through family support, and he also through actually the predecessor of Community Reach, through Community Ministers of Rockville, used to deliver boxes of MANA food to shut-in elderly people. So I went to the market, and Jackie and I were looking at the refrigerated area, and somehow I learned that eggs and milk were not regularly able to be made available to clients. And I'm sort of looking for Jackie to say that's still true or it's not true. But in any event, I was quite surprised by that because, first of all, I'm obviously a white woman. I'm from the Midwest, and I claim to be only a generation and a half off the farm in Kansas. You could argue it's 2 generations, but my paternal grandfather was born and raised on a farm in Kansas. And so eggs and milk have always been staples in my diet and in my grocery order. I know not everybody eats them, but I think if it's not eggs and milk, I think it would be interesting to explore what is it that we, for whatever reasons, aren't able to make available for people to have in their grocery carts, that if they were in a different economic position, they would be able to choose and would choose for themselves. So that's my vision. I'd like MANA to think about that, because I see this kind of provision and more choice as conveying more dignity. Some of my ideas just quickly for how could we do this, it could be focused fundraising. For example, I came up with MANA's Moo Fund, as in cow, or Help Build a Hen House, which would be a way we could target some fundraising. We could reach out to smaller producers, local producers. There are many of those in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia. There are big trade associations, and this reflects my professional background as a food policy and food lawyer at FDA, but they're big trade associations, and maybe the National Egg Producers or the milk cooperatives would be interested in trying to cooperate with us. And final thing, and I saw this work very successfully with my synagogue congregation, is to maybe set up a competition. We competed with, oh my goodness, I can't think of the second congregation, but
It was
we got
Adat Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyway, we competed to
get to the
this
breakout.
year. Pre-COVID, it was how many pounds of food did each congregation raise during Yom Kippur, which is a day for us to fasting. And then we switched to both food and dollars this past year. And there's a very artful trophy. And I think those kinds of fun competition to serve people. So,
yeah, so you can see
anyway.
why we asked Catherine, because she has ideas along many points of the wheel. Donating,
right. I'm sorry, I went on
volunteering, and so she's going to lead a conversation. Dave's going to lead a conversation, and I'm going to lead a conversation in our breakout room so that you guys can talk about what part of the wheel you might want to be on as individuals, and then we're going to come back as a group and see if there are any synergies or overlaps. So now, Agar, we are ready for our breakout rooms. Can you put us in there? Yes, Jenna is inviting us. I'm going to join.
Okay, everybody's gone. Except for Sil, who's not at her computer and not making choices.
Hi, Catherine and I were in the same breakout room. Can you?
No,
Yes.
I purposely put you in different ones.
I don't know why. I'm just telling you, please give me a breakout room.
No, it's because Sam has the same name.
No, I counted for that. Hold on.
Yes, I purposely put you in different ones.
Oh, I hear what you're hearing. Okay, so you're going. Sorry. Yeah, it was confusing to have Jackie and Jackie DiCarlo, but I knew Jackie, Mana Food Center was Jackie and Jackie DiCarlo was Sam. So I put them in different rooms.
It's crazy, Jenna. I'm like,
why are you watching or hearing YouTube?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm like,
all right, I'm going to go to a breakout room, I think. What time do we need to stop these breakout rooms?
15 minutes.
15?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do I get to one?
You know what? Every time that you are speaking, I'm hearing you afterwards. So.
Yeah, I hear it too. I'll go to David's.
Every time that you are speaking, I'm hearing you afterwards.
Yeah, I hear it too. Or why don't you join a breakout room? I don't know if you can, if you're hearing YouTube. It might be too irritating. Or why don't you join a breakout room? Oh, yeah, that's terrible. You need to figure out how that doesn't happen. I don't know if you can. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's terrible. You need to figure out how that doesn't happen. Okay. Why isn't anybody in? People are having really good conversations.
Really?
Well, I just popped into one group, but they were having a good conversation.
I'm so sorry about this thing. I don't know what happened. You
When-
remember? You remember? Yes. I don't remember. It was on. Yeah.
You need to mute your
What do I mute? What?
Let's ask Sam. Oh, why is Jackie DeCarlo typing? Let's ask Sam. Oh, why is Jackie DeCarlo?
So you know what? I changed the time on Zoom because we were supposed to join the meeting before to sign in before people arrived.
Yep,
So
I remember.
I didn't know that we have to also change the sing it with Eventbrite.
Yep, I remember.
I didn't know that we have to also change the sing it with Eventbrite.
Okay. Sam says just to drag the volume down on your YouTube player down to 0.
Okay.
Okay. Sam says just to drag the volume down on your YouTube player down to 0. Did you do that? Okay, good. Nope. I'm still hearing it. How am I still hearing it?
This is.
Okay, good. Nope. I'm still hearing it. Did you find the volume on your YouTube? Did you find the volume on your YouTube?
I cannot do anything right now because people are in breakout rooms. I'm not sure that. Let me. Right now. Breakout rooms. Where is it? Oh. Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's better now. I didn't know that. I was lost in the meeting because I was hearing people twice. So every time that Jackie was speaking, I didn't know what she was saying because it was confusing in my mind. Oh my God. I'm so.
What happened? Did Jackie just? Oh, no, okay. That was just Sam telling me that. I don't think it's that you have to change it in both places. I think that when you changed it in Zoom, you accidentally put PM instead of AM.
Really?
That's how it was set in Eventbrite anyway. It was set for 11:30 PM.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
On Eventbrite, wow.
So that's probably how it was set in Zoom. But I was standing there. Wasn't I standing next to you when you did it?
Yes, we were together.
And I watched you select AM.
Really?
Yeah, because I was worried. For a second, I thought you were going to keep it PM, and I was ready to tell you, Agar, you have to change it.
No,
to AM.
it was AM because it was, oh no, 11 AM, 11:30 AM, not PM.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's correct, right?
Well, I don't know what it says in Zoom right now, but all I know is that in the Eventbrite, it was set as 11:30 PM.
No, and on Eventbrite, we can see it right now. It's 12 to 1:30. The time is correct on Eventbrite. I don't know what happened, but I
Did
can
someone
see the
change
video.
it?
Who? I'm not sure because I did it and I went helped me to make sure that everything is well set up. We double check together and it was nice. Yeah, I will just 8 minutes.
Mhm.
I will broadcast it.
Okay. I'm trying to go back to.
So
Because
yeah,
I did get an Eventbrite link at
mhm.
11:51 a.m. It said April Breaking Bread is about to start. And if I
Yeah.
click on the link, but when I click on the link,
Mhm.
it says April 30th at 11:30 p.m.
Oh, but I don't know what happened.
I don't either. So when you started the Zoom meeting, you just started a fresh Zoom meeting for Breaking Bread?
When I started today,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I started at on time because I scheduled it for 11:30 and I signed in at 11:30 just because we wanted to make sure that everything is correct, like logistic with Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But you logged in via
via
that
Zoom.
same link, the Zoom link that you had set up previously.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we assign this person someone?
No,
just
no,
joined.
stop. I don't know who this is.
Okay.
Hi, who just joined? Hello? Hi, Sue.
Hi, how are you?
All right, how are you?
Good.
Were you just able to get the link?
I just did,
And join
yeah.
it? Yeah. We're in 5 more minutes of breakout rooms. Would you like to go in one for the last 5 minutes, or you just want to hang out here with us until
I'll just
people
hang
come
out
back?
for 5 minutes. Yeah,
Okay.
I know. I was busy doing something else and I
That's okay.
missed it.
And I'm also trying to figure out who else just joined us, but I'm not sure who Moto E is. Moto E, if you can hear me, can you tell me who you are? Reveal yourself.
Now.
Because if you don't, I'm going to remove you. I don't know, when they signed on, it was just a whole bunch of background noise.
That's weird.
Okay, I'm just
Maybe
gonna
you got pocket dialed.
possibly. That's funny. Okay, I'm just gonna remove them. We have had a little bit of technical issues on today's Zoom and Eventbrite weren't communicating properly. But what is Sam asking Agar? Are you able to go in the main room? I am in the main room.
Yeah.
Does she want to come in the main room? What's going on?
No, she was talking about the person who just joined.
Oh, I see.
That person.
Okay. Anyway, Sue, how's your day going?
My day's going pretty well. It's
okay.
Windy but sunny, and when it's sunny, it always feels good. So yeah, I'm getting ready to. We had a china cabinet we had to completely unload to move to paint the last wall of our big winter paint job. And we finally did it today. So that's what I'm looking at this afternoon is painting.
But that sounds like it'll be a good sense of accomplishment.
It will. Then the whole project will be done and we can put that back away and then go out and work in the garden.
Right, move on to the next project. Sam, did you need us to do something?
I just wanted to make sure that there was somebody here because I saw we had people joining the meeting.
Oh, yes, we're here.
Everybody was in breakout rooms, so.
Well, Sue elected not to go into a breakout room for the last 3 minutes, and then that other individual would not tell me who they were, so I removed them. Sorry, is that bad form?
No, this is what happens when you put a private Zoom link on social media.
Oh, yes. Don't worry though. We are standing guard here.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure. Sue, did you get the wheel of social change wheel? What's this?
Let me remember.
Oh no, looks like this.
No, I didn't get that.
Okay. Well, that is what folks are talking about in the breakout room. So when they come back, just so you know what they're referencing.
Okay.
The link was in the Eventbrite, but I don't know.
Oh, okay. I may have missed that.
If that got to everybody. I'm sure that we'll send it out again.
Okay.
And Agar, actually, do you have it near you? We can put it in the chat. I should have done that early on.
Is this being recorded? So can I go back and look at it later? Okay.
It is, although, the breakout rooms never get recorded. So,
right.
Oh,
well.
I'm going to find the social change wheel.
Is there a link to the social change wheel or is it just a PDF?
It was linked. There was a link to the PDF in the email that was sent out. I'm putting it in the chat now.
I also attached the document to the email that I sent to the team, the staff.
Oh, the one you just sent. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna close the rooms. Oh, you already got it.
Whoops. Sorry, Jackie.
Sorry.
Jackie, I was just getting ready to say something to my group. Please let me just say this one little thing to the group. Hey, make sure that you share some of the things that we were talking about because I'm the worst note taker ever. I'm just being open.
And I guess if we're going to switch the format, Dave, I'm going to put my group members on the spot and maybe give a heading and then ask them to elaborate.
Yeah.
So where's
Great.
Jackie?
I'm here. I'm happy to let you to modify this whole afternoon has been modification, right? So Dave, you want to go ahead and put folks on the spot? I think we have about 15 minutes for breakout report out. So why don't you take a few and let's hear what your team came up with.
David, I got this.
There you go, Dina. I told you.
So
I knew it.
David and Dina and Andrea, each of us has a Cynthia. We are people of a certain age who have a spawn, as David called it, an offspring, a
We're supposed
spawn
to say that.
who's Cynthia's age. And I said, oh, and Jen is laughing because you're one of those as well. Okay, so we were
Jen
talking
is
about.
older. Jen is too old to be mine.
So we were talking about how we feel like we are very intentionally and mindfully trying to grow into this moment that we're in, and we also come from a pretty good solid place. But the 30-year-olds in our lives would like us to be more evolved than we are. And sometimes it feels a little rough in the way that we are educated by our spawn. And so very good.
Oh, she got stuck again.
Just listen. Freeze again.
Yeah.
Did I freeze again?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know what
So
that might happen, help a little bit is if you turn off your camera.
Oh, okay. Well, if it happens again, I will. So Cynthia suggested that we try listening to our very wise and worldly 30-year-old offspring instead of defending ourselves.
Yep.
And that doesn't necessarily mean we have to agree with everything, but they're coming from their lens. And Andrea also added that we need to think about if we have an older generation. Unfortunately, my parents are no longer with us, but those are conversations I would have wanted to have with them as well if they had lived to this moment. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, team, what did I miss?
You did awesome.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that I would add to what Dina said is that it's listening both ways.
Yeah.
That, David talked about his experiences growing up, and I was talking about my father, who is much older than you, David, and his experiences growing up. But the idea that when we talk to people, we do so in a way that Dina wants her daughter to be more understanding where she's coming from, and that we all want the same thing, that we want to be heard, we want to learn, but I think we want it to be a two-sided situation where we're not just being told what to do, but we're also being listened to so that recommendations can be made that make sense for us. We didn't really talk about that, but that's, I think, the gist of what I was kind of trying to say.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I will add, folks, and thank you for Cynthia, who went out on the spot, brought up the wheel, the complete wheel. And we actually went through that. And I think we set the groundwork for further discussion where each member of the group will look at that wheel and see what kind of strategy they could develop out of that towards something that they feel is important. So that was the other thing, if you remember, group members, that we talked about that. And I think that's a key element.
Nice job, breakout room number 1. Catherine, you wanted to go next.
I will go next.
Thank you.
We had an interesting discussion, I think, about primarily education and the need. I'll say a couple sentences, and then Jane and Chris and Dwayne and Jose and I'm forgetting who the last person was. Oh, Robin, how could I forget? Anyway, you're right in the center of my screen. About the need for education of ourselves, about the needs and of not only the needs of our community, but also about how these communities that we serve have been treated in the past. I mean, to summarize it succinctly, the cause of food insecurity is embedded in a lot of the problems of racism and past treatment of different groups. And so that's one thing that we feel we need to do post-COVID to better serve and to create a better world. What I think was the most intriguing to me personally is that several people said, we need to ask the clients. I mean, I had sort of hinted at this, like when I talked about trying to provide dignity through expanding what we could make available to clients. It's, how do I know? I'm white from the Midwest and approaching 70. So I have a certain lived experience. And I think Jane started us on this idea that we need to reach back to the clients, both on what do they need and want, and also what policies should there be instead of things being imposed upon those we serve. So I invite all the members of our group, if you know, either you want to riff on those. I think I summarized the essence of our conversation. Jane, I think I appreciate your elaboration. Oh, yeah,
I thought you did a beautiful job summarizing. I have nothing more to add.
Oh, well, I wasn't looking for that from you, but thank you.
No, that was,
and
yeah.
thank you for your ideas. Jose, you got cut off when we got unceremoniously thrown out of our breakout room. Did you have other things to add?
Yeah, so alongside education, I wanted to add that having people understand what they're being taught about not just food education, but just systematic racism is important because as someone on the younger side, I can see just exactly from the last 4 years, just how much education, not just within our own communities, but also within those that we vote in our government and those in power is important, because having someone that's out of touch and doesn't really understand the needs of the community that they serve greatly affects just how much the systematic racism is imposed and just how much food insecurity we have. So having people understand what exactly that they're doing, what they're basically advocating for, what they need, is something that we need to really strive on in these coming years, because this won't be the first pandemic that we're going to face. And as we have seen, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, but having education at the forefront and having people understand what they're being taught is very important.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I like this model of letting the other folks speak. So I'll just try to highlight some things that we shared in our breakout and how they related. We were trying to also to tease out how it related to Breaking Bread being a resource or a tool. So like, for instance, Gary talked about the importance of partnerships among nonprofits. Lorna built on that around touching on getting out of our isolation within our faith groups or our racial groups. So kind of leaning into, yes, this is good where we're going across lines of difference and how we're synergizing things that are of mutual interest, and how we can promote that for education, where you guys were just talking about. Kathy spoke of the, you know, her, and she and I had some similar reflections about how as professionals, it's our work to do some of this justice action, but we also have to do more than the service work. We have to advocate and where to build the alliances and leverage the different sources of power for advocacy. Wynn could have been in one of the other breakout groups because she was just uplifting the importance of listening to the people who are our neighbors, our participants, and seeing what they needed. And so the really what we came out of that was that maybe breaking bread could be not just a reaching out to individuals and saying, hey, you want to break bread, but reaching out more to other organizations as we have with Impact or Interfaith, or but be really intentional about creating some time where we could all, as individuals and as institutions, report out on things that would help education. So I think that's how we tied it all together. But any of the folks in the breakout room want to enhance that or correct that?
No, you did well.
Thank you. That's reassuring. I got a thumbs up from the youngster. I just think it's great when we were the conversation about across generations. I really appreciate that. That's one of the wonderful parts of our diversity at Mana, is that we do have lots of different generations, and we're all in good dialogue, I think most of the time, and not just about technology, but about lived experience and such. Okay, so here we are at our 15-minute mark. We've got about 15 minutes left. Thanks for hanging in as much as you can. I know sometimes people have to peel off because this is more than a lunch hour, but having heard what the other breakout room said, knowing that we do have the possibility of being together again soon, and we want to be as solution oriented as possible for this new normal. Anybody have any ideas of what we can do with breaking bread? And as I've already said, one is that we could be more intentional about inviting representatives of groups that share our vision and co-create and co-conspire. Any other ideas of some tangible things that this group on usually the third Wednesday of the month can do?
Yeah, can I throw something in?
Please.
Something that I know that Cynthia spoke about, and I think Wynn mentioned, and then Catherine also mentioned, is the idea that I think reaching out to the other nonprofits is great, but I also think that you could invite some of your clients to Breaking Bread. I think that, you'd have to start with some intentionality in getting people in the room, and probably provide an agenda or a thought or an idea ahead of time, but that would give them a voice in this whole piece.
Yeah, and Andrea, I know you will receive this. So we actually do, and we actually have members of Breaking Bread who are our participants, and it's one of the things that we love about this is that we don't really know all the time who's who.
Great, perfect.
But it doesn't mean that we couldn't do it better or, work around things like language, because we do it in English, so there may be new horizons of that, but we have had participants participate.
Yeah. I just wanted to encourage all of us that, and I know Jackie, when everyone gets a copy of the wheel, and again, the wheel, the reason why I'm kind of excited about it, because I believe that the wheel can spur thought. And if we begin to look at the wheel before we come back together and see how some of these ideas, how we can spin different parts of the wheel to come up with something unique that could be another arm or version or offshoot of Breaking Bread based on some of these strategies, maybe it may serve us pretty well by the time we come back together. So I'd like to throw that out as well.
Yes, thank you, David, for allowing space to reflect and to mull, and maybe to talk with your best friend about this, or your pastor or your rabbi or your spouse or whomever. Yeah, we need that. It's good that we meet monthly so we have that time to reflect And we definitely will get the wheel out to you, to everybody, to kind of spark those conversations and reflections.
Jackie, if I could ask, is there a formalized client advisory group for MANA?
Yes and no. So we have an advocacy task force that I should probably let Lorna speak, but I'll start and then you can improve on it, Lorna. So Lorna is the chair of our advocacy task force, which we do make an intentional effort to have participants, and we compensate them for their time. And we have other nonprofits who join that, as well as volunteers. I'm looking on the screen. I don't think I see any volunteers. But so that's one of our mechanisms, that formal mechanisms. And then we definitely, throughout our programs that Cynthia does, and Agar and Jenna and Jose, we try to find lots of mechanisms to promote dialogue in the sense of what we're doing. But Lorna, anything you wanted to say about the advocacy task force, and then programs team, if I didn't say well how you listen, improve on that for me?
No, though we did I did have an opportunity to represent MANA this week on the Seniors Today program. It's a Montgomery County cable television network that sponsors this production called Seniors Today, and I think it's run by the Montgomery County Commission for the Aging. Anyway, they came to MANA to ask if we could just share during their segment this week about what MANA is doing specifically to assist our aging population. So that was a wonderful opportunity. I think the link came out today. I haven't looked at it because I hate looking at myself after the fact. So I'll send it to you, Jackie. But yeah, but other than that, the advocacy task force is just continuing to keep our eyes on the legislation that passed and didn't pass in this last Maryland General Assembly cycle, and to see what work we still have to do.
Programs team, anything you want to uplift about how we listen to? Because Catherine, I'm assuming maybe I shouldn't have assumed, but I'm assuming you asked that question because you wanted to know if there were any mechanisms for listening to our participants.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I totally not? Because I had stepped away for a second. Did I totally not answer the question?
That's okay, Lorna. You did a fine job. The advocacy task force does many things. And one is it serves as an ambassador, like Lorna just did to the senior community. It testifies and that sort of thing, but it also helps us shape our priorities with the lived experience of the people who come together, and we come together every other month.
I was asking because this was, I think, a dominant thread in our breakout groups discussion about, part of the systemic structure is the powerful imposing on the less powerful. Their ideas about whether it's milk and eggs, I'll own that, or it's, should food be boxed? And I think trying to add dignity means you don't impose on people, you listen to them. And I just wondered what was formalized.
I wanted to throw a little answer in there. And honestly, this is to uplift Jose and Agar, because they recently did interviews with some participants that I think is a great example of what you're talking about, Catherine, in terms of talking to the participants, or MANA participants in particular, asking what kind of, not necessarily food, but there was a hot topic about canned foods, and just going through the conversations and what participants feel and what they like. How often are they eating their food? Should they have food more often? So it's I think it's an interesting conversation piece because I think the work that Agar and Jose have recently put forth is really great work. And if you're interested in that information, I'm sure they could give more info, but I think that's a good example of kind of what you're talking about, Catherine.
Exactly. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. And thank you, Agar and Jose, for using your listening skills. So what we're going to do now is shift gears a little bit, because as we were reflected on what we've heard from each other, one of the things that we always have done, I'm pretty much sure across the years of Breaking Bread, is end with some commitments. Now, recognizing, as Dave said, that some of us need to distill and mull and, hash things out. But if you are ready to make a commitment about something that you want to pursue on the social change wheel or relative to Breaking Bread, this would be a great time to do that. And as Catherine said, if you want to volunteer to help with the next Breaking Bread, that would be great to hear. And if you don't say it, I will be reaching out to somebody. So get ready. Now is your chance to raise your hand. But any commitment of any type, would anyone like to make after today's reflections?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and open up my mouth again. I really want to take this wheel and take some of the ideas I've heard, and I'm going to try to come up with some kind of construct. It's going to be a straw man. It's not going to be, it's not going to have all the components, but I'm kind of looking for, as Jackie knows, I want to do something. I don't want to just talk about it. I actually want something to emerge. So I'm going to try to put a framework together based on some of the ideas that our group shared, as well as some of my own thoughts, and bring that to our next meeting.
A framework for Breaking Bread, you mean?
Well, maybe a framework of some type of sub model that Breaking Bread may be able to help initiate or implement.
Cool.
Rather.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to, I'm very intrigued by the work that Cynthia described that Jose and Agar have done. And this is more like asking somebody else to make a commitment, but I would be interested in hearing about being educated by their work. And I think this is entirely consistent with our breakout groups discussion about trying to serve and add dignity. Well, what's dignified to me may not be to others. So and that's maybe another program as opposed to somebody making a commitment, but
Robin is gonna make a commitment, but I can say that the MANA team will take that idea, Catherine, and see if there's a way that we can share the results of these interviews out, and maybe, to Andrea's earlier point, maybe have a participant be part of that sharing. But Robin, what were you going to commit?
Well, I'm so grateful to David for sharing this wheel, and I'm going to send it to the 55 people on my racial justice book discussion group list, and encourage a thing that we do is we read these amazing books, like the one that I've talked about earlier during this meeting, which we're going to discuss again in June. What we struggle with is trying to figure out a way to turn our new education, our new knowledge into action. And I think that this wheel is really going to help us. So David, thank you so much for that. It is going to get circulated. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, Jackie, for giving it to me. And now
Okay.
And thank you, Nick, from Montgomery College. I mean, we just saw it just shows the benefit of how sharing resources helps people. So
Exactly.
we're just passing things on. And I
Yep.
think it came from the Midwest, Catherine. I think it came from Iowa and Minnesota. So there you go. The heartland.
Yep.
Great, Robin. We look forward to seeing what comes of that, of your folks maybe taking action in the book group. I do want to respect time. So last call for a commitment or a volunteer to help with May. All right, I'm going to find you then. So let me take this opportunity to thank Agar and Sam for behind the scenes fixing everything that the universe broke for us technology wise. Thanks each of you for joining us, but a special thanks to Dave and Catherine for giving this so much thought and careful attention and leading us in the conversations so that we can create the next new normal, and may it be one that is much more dignified and just and abundant for everyone. So
Thank you,
bye,
Jackie.
everybody.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie, as usual.
Thank you all.
Good afternoon.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hagar, it's probably apparent, but you just need to press stop in the live stream.
Yeah, let me do that, please.